Hello and welcome. We're here at Holistic Investments, and I'm Constantin Kogan, your host, and it's a pleasure to introduce our today's guest, Winston Ma. Winston is an investor, attorney, author, and adjunct professor in the global digital economy. He's one of the few native Chinese who have worked as an investment professional and practicing capital markets attorney in both United States and China. He has a 10-year career in Wall Street, managing director and head of North American office of China Investment Corporation, China Sovereign Wealth Fund. He's an author of 2 books, which we're going to discuss today, and just an amazing human being. Thank you for being here, Winston. Hello.
Thank you, Constantin. Great to be here.
Likewise. And, just to begin with, we also throw a quick legal disclaimer. So this content is for informational purposes only. You should not construe any such information or other material as legal, tax, investment, financial, or any other advice. As an attorney, I hope you appreciate it, right?
Yes.
Now we're off the hook. We can talk about a lot of things freely. So obviously you have a tremendous career as a person who's in traditional financial markets and, managing top funds, like billions of dollars, right? And dealing with traditional Web2 projects. So let's start from the early story. What even led you to be part of Web3 evolution?
Good question to start the conversation. My undergrad major was semiconductor physics and software programming. So that probably was the initial route, right, for my ongoing focus of the digital economy last 2 decades. From there, I became a lawyer, banker, investor, but always in that space relating to the tech space. I was 10 years on the Wall Street, right? Davis Polk, JP Morgan, Barclays. And then with that experience, I joined the CIC at its inception, as the first group of overseas hires, the overseas educated Chinese to go back to China to manage the government funds, right? To manage a portion of the enormous foreign reserve of China. So I got the chance to get into many different sectors for global investing, including tech space. So actually that's maybe another factor, right, for my current focus in the future of internet, because last decade when I was at CIC, I got the chance to invest in mobile internet very early. I got into Twitch very early before it was sold to Amazon. And then we got into early rounds of Unity, almost 10 years before its IPO, a year ago, right? So when you look at that, I had the early window into the mobile internet and the gaming, like Unity. So it's quite natural, right? In recent years, I could get into the Metaverse concepts very, very comfortably. And after 10 years with CIC, I moved back to New York. So I'm now working on VC, working on SPAC transactions, and sitting on boards of a few tech companies, such as the Capgemini advisory board. And for all these companies, right, they have different touching points of the Metaverse and the Web3. So many things have led me into my current focus of the future internet.
I think the fact that you invested in such an early companies that now are foundational infrastructure of Web3 is impressive, by itself. And I'm sure that give you a lot of understanding of how the modern infrastructure works and also what are the challenges. So in your latest book titled Blockchain and Web3, Building the Cryptocurrency Privacy and Security Foundations of the Metaverse, you talk a lot about what are the major challenges right now, what are the future of the metaverse, and would crypto even be the main tool of the future metaverse? Because as I was reading only a few chapters, but we had a discussion with you even prior to the call that I would love you to address a very important issue that I don't think everyone understands now with the hype. that the governments, the corporations, like that are monopolists right now of the Web2 world, they don't have the same agenda as people in the Web3 world, right? So there are two different narratives, two different incentives. So let's talk a little bit about this, like, how they're different and what do you think is going to be the future?
Terrific question. Essentially, two main directions, for the future of internet. One direction we can loosely call it Metaverse, because Facebook, when Facebook changed its name into Meta, right, they wanted to emphasize the Facebook focus on the future of Metaverse, which is the immersive, persistent, three-dimensional virtual world, where people will spend their most of the time, including the interaction with the physical world, right? And this concept of Metaverse is mostly about a virtual reality economy, right? It's about AR, VR, XR, and three-dimensional data processing, right? So relating to that, there's a lot of new technologies will be developed, starting from AR, VR technologies, right? Another important aspect, we can loosely call it Web3, right? Obviously, Web3 and the Metaverse have overlap, but when people use the concept of Web3, the focus is on decentralization. It is on the ownership of the internet, namely, creators are calling for their own ownership of the future internet, right? Mm-hmm. And here you can see the difference, right? For Facebook, when it develops a Metaverse, it will still be the centralized platform, right? But for the crypto Web3 enthusiasts, right, the future of the web, namely the Web3, will be a decentralized internet owned by all the creators, and the creators will gain more economic interests, right, through the ownership of the internet and through the smart contract, which would define their economic rights arising from their creation, right? So these are the two main directions. One focusing on the AR, VR, XR virtual reality, another focusing on decentralization and individual ownership and the creators' economic interests. And you can clearly see, right, one is more about the big tech companies, one is more about the crypto communities.
And I think it's impressive that right now, I don't think a lot of people understand what's the main difference. Because, if we take, some of the top platforms in our world, and specifically you mentioned NFT, which is quite a novel thing for a lot of people, but yet already we see like platforms like OpenSea distributed billions of dollars to creators, right? And right. And this is like, this is the opposite of how Meta, namely before Facebook, right, is operating. So they're offering you free services, right? But you yes. are the data. So basically you are the monetization because they collect the data from you, and the payout, if you're lucky, if you become an influencer, right, and you become the big, then they pay out something from like a revenue share from the profits that they have, right? They have a formula, as opposed to the Web3 world where the preliminary, like the first focus is to pay out for the creators. So let's go a little bit deeper. Like, what do you see where the conflict will go to a level where it will become probably inevitable that those two worlds, they cannot coexist together?
That's really a good question, because right now we already see the lawsuit, right, between Epic Games and Apple, the powerful platform, right? So if a large corporation like Epic Games, right, wants to bring a lawsuit against Apple in order to get its products, its contents to Apple in a quote-unquote equitable way, then you can imagine, average creators, right, have very little negotiating power in the existing Web 2 space, right? Now, why Epic Games? Right? I think one important reason is that the gaming sector is the early version of the Metaverse, right? And it has the overlap of Metaverse and Web3, because on one hand, the gaming space is the 3D immersive experience, right, for users to interact. So it fits in the concept of metaverse, maybe early stage, but you can get a feeling of the future metaverse from today's gaming space, right? At the same time, it also has some components of the Web3 theme, because more and more gaming companies, including Epic Games, right? They are testing the involvement of gaming tokens in their gaming, and also the tokenization of the in-game digital assets, etc. Right? So in the gaming space, you can see the overlap of the two concepts, Web3 and the metaverse, and maybe it is the closest version of the future internet. When people, average users, right, can create their own games, be the creator, and also use the gaming tokens to increase their economic interests, right, for their creation. But in the past, most of the time, people play games for free, but they don't get anything from the gaming playing anyway, right? But going forward, we may see a new economic ecosystem in the gaming context, where the individuals become the gaming creators themselves, and they also benefit from their creation through the usage of gaming tokens, the in-game digital assets, and the smart contracts, right, relating to their creation and the related IP rights. So I think to conclude, when you look at the Epic Games v. Apple lawsuit, you can see that even Web2 is showing that kind of crash, right? So you can definitely imagine, the Web3 communities will not accept that kind of model anymore. So they will want to create a completely new ecosystem where they are the creators and they are also the economic owners of their creation.
Well, we see that Apple is actually getting pushback from a lot of companies lately, right? Because what they implemented recently, even the marketplaces were operating in the NFT space, they're now trying to get 30% commission from them as well, right? Those who are listed their apps on Apple Store, right? That's another level of pressure and monopoly that they have, right? So they're operating almost like a bank. They have a lot of cash, they can control, they can push everyone, they have a lot of influence. So, I mean, obviously for now it works, but then they're having more and more pushbacks from top companies. Epic Games is only one of them. You saw there was a clash with Twitter, and then there's going to be a clash with many other companies. So soon enough, that will shift. But I want to address another issue, which is closer to our Web3 world, right? Even though the advent of those technologies are amazing, we personally invested in a lot of games, in a lot of metaverse ecosystems, and we believe in this space, right? I'm sure you do too. But at the same time, we have to be objective that the numbers of users are still minuscule. They're very small. And it's even in the gaming communities, notably, by the way, Epic Games and many others, they criticize Web3 world, specifically NFT, because they feel also attacked by this disintermediation. Because guess what? Right now, they control all their profits from their in-game assets, whether it's minerals, gold, or whatever other assets they have. And now somebody wants to come and say well, we're going to give it 90% to the community. They're like, no. This is not in our interest. So what do you think is going to what do you think is going to happen there? What are the major challenges that we as an industry have to go through to actually show that this is viable, and all the big corporations, production studios, gaming studios, they will start to collaborate?
No, I think the quick answer is that we need true blockchain-based, high-quality gaming. Right? To me, that's really the key to break today's Web2 gaming ecosystem. Right? If you look at today's gaming ecosystem, the creators do not get the lion's share of the economics. Right? Instead, there's the gaming publishing platforms. Right? The large platforms that control the user traffic. They take the most of the profit share, right? and they push back on NFT together with many gamers, because the first group of quote unquote crypto gaming or blockchain gaming did not live up to the expectation of gamers, right? But there's gamers for when you look at gamers from the gamers' perspective, their first demand is to have a great game, right? And then you say, on top of that, we give you more digital assets. They will say that's good, but please don't disrupt my gaming experience, right? Mm-hmm. And today, the first generation of blockchain gaming, unfortunately, have been mostly simple games plus crypto plays, right? So what we really need is, similar high quality AAA, or whatever you call it, right? High quality games developed by true creators, and then they're built on blockchain technologies, such that the creators, right, can use smart contract to manage their economic shares, and to balance their power with the power of the publishing platforms. And we don't see that yet, but I think that's the direction.
Of course, and there's a rational explanation why we don't see it, because for someone who's listening right now who's not in the gaming world, like I was a gamer myself, and now I have a privilege.
I can see that.
Yeah, I have a privilege to invest in this space, and I can tell you that to build a AAA game takes 4 to 5 years. It's just an objective reality. You cannot build it in 1 to 2 years. It's like those equation that if you have one woman who's given birth to a child, it takes 9 months. But if you take 9 women, they're not gonna get it in 1 month. So it's just.
Well, that's a good one.
Yes, it's just the reality. So we have to be patient. We will see. Right. I mean, I think I've already seen about 2 or 3 at least, like very, very high quality games that are being developed, and they're in their alpha or beta, and they're only 2 years in existence. So they need probably 2-3 more years to actually become bigger.
Yes.
So that's number one. Number two, so I want to also address other challenges. So yes, the quality of the game obviously is one of them, right? Well, what do you think? Let's speculate a little bit. Let's imagine we have already killer apps and amazing gameplay, right? What other challenges we're talking about here? In your book, you're talking about security, which is also a substantial issue. So let's address this part as well.
Yeah. For that, I think we touched on the important topic of user experience, right? When you think about the revolution of the mobile internet and the smartphone, the most important part is that people can enjoy contents anytime, anywhere, and at the high speed, right? For gaming, since you're a gamer, right? It takes a lot more data, especially we are talking about the 3D immersive gaming environment, right? To put this in another way, it's very easy for 10 people across the globe to read a website at the same time, right? But for the 10 people across different continents to play a game together, that requires a lot of tech support and huge data processing capabilities, right? So going forward, we need the development of a cloud ecosystem, right? So that we can either continue to use smartphone, but rely on the cloud system to support the data intensive gaming environment or similar metaverse environment, right? Or you have to develop some new smart devices, maybe it's glasses, maybe it's something else, right? To support next generation gamers, right? To enjoy a gaming experience anytime, anywhere, and globally, right? Because when we say a metaverse is the future social network, essentially we can see that in the gaming environment. More and more people are moving their activities into the gaming environment. So the gaming environment is like the new social network, right? But we're not fully there. because the data processing power and also the related data privacy, data security technologies are still at the infant stage, right, for that 3D immersive world.
Yes, 100%. And we see that even some of the very famous metaverses, they try to conduct a concert inside the metaverse, and they could not host more than a few thousand people. As you mentioned, the cloud infrastructure is not there yet. Like, it cannot process like high quality, high resolution, like 3D objects, like, and to interact like there, like, so it's still like it's in infancy. However, there's been billions of dollars invested in the infrastructure in the metaverse. We've seen big funds like A16Z, Sequoia, like now Animoca is coming. They specifically create multi-billion-dollar funds investing in the metaverse. So I want to also pick your brain a little bit as an investor also. So let's go 5 years from now on, right? Let's imagine infrastructure is up to the par, like, and we also have the capability of, let's say, host millions of people. How will it look like?
Yeah, I think we are still maybe 5-10 years away from that. At this moment, first we need the basic infrastructure, right? Maybe 5G networks will bring us to the next level of speed, so that we can play games or interact in the 3D environment as easily as we post a two-dimensional video on TikTok, right? So first we need that data processing capabilities, and the second is essentially the development of crypto. The second is about the development of data privacy and data security technologies to support this. Actually, the issues are the same, right? But in the 3D interactive immersive environment, all the issues got compounded exponentially. You can imagine Meta can pick your data a lot more, right? If you are in a 3D environment, or if you do everything, in that immersive environment, essentially all your behavior data is there. So it's still very infant time, right? The policy can do some help, but essentially, I truly believe that the data issue has to be solved by data technologies. Like you can have all the policies out there, but how do you enforce that, right? How do you enable the consumers? You need technologies. So in my book, I talk about blockchain as the backbone of Metaverse. Certainly it helps the crypto foundation of the Metaverse or Web3, but it is also important, as a data security technology, right, to develop more sophisticated infrastructure, so that in Web3 users can have more control of their own data. It's good. Again, it's good to have policies and regulations, but you need that technology you need that kind of enabling technologies for users to manage their data more efficiently and safely. So
if we would go with your previous explanation that right now Web3 is more about decentralization, right? If we're talking about like blockchain as a layer one solution, as an infrastructure, as a ledger, distributed ledger, there are solutions which are centralized and there are solutions which are decentralized, right? So I want the people who are listening to this to have a very clear distinction, between the two. And I want you to go a little bit deeper and explain, like, so what will be the future? When you're talking about the blockchain as a backbone, let's delve a little bit deeper. Like, so what does it mean? Which blockchain? Can you tell me, like, which, if you were to bet, like 3 to 5 years, which blockchain will be dominant in the space of gaming, let's say, or metaverse?
Very interesting. So first, you talked about the difference between permissioned blockchain and permissionless blockchain, right?
Correct.
Permissioned blockchain, may be understood as a private blockchain, and it is organized by a given number of entities or people, right? And it has a clear centralized ownership, and to its benefit, right, it can handle compliance with local regulation maybe better because it has a centralized
nature
role. But the downside is, it is permissioned blockchain, so the data inevitably will be handled by some centralized force, right? And by contrast, the permissionless blockchain, as we typically refer to as the public blockchain, right, are the blockchains that are decentralized. For that, Bitcoin is the best example, right? For Bitcoin network, it doesn't have a centralized corporate headquarters. It does not have a management team. There's no CEO. And actually, we do not even know who the founder is, right? So it is a truly decentralized blockchain. But the challenge here is you have trade-offs, right? When you have a very decentralized, secure blockchain like a Bitcoin network, it is much harder to scale, right? To expand, right? So that's why we have blockchains, public blockchains like Ethereum and other protocols, right? So they give up a little bit on the decentralization and the security, but they can scale more, and they can cultivate an ecosystem of decentralized applications, right? So as I speak, right, I would, I start to think about Ethereum, right? It is now the most vibrant platform for decentralized application developers to build up new applications and then attract more users more quickly than the Bitcoin type of mechanism, right? So I think for public blockchains like Ethereum, as they develop more ecosystem around developers, users, or even content consumers, etc., they will become more and more closer to the mobile internet, the mobile apps that we know today, right? So essentially, the people can have a very easy interface. Do not have to worry about the complexity of crypto a lot, and they can interact with other users very easily. Today, obviously, these public blockchains still have a long way to go, right? They may have millions of users, but not billions of users like the mobile apps. And they can provide fairly convenient wallets, but the transfer of cryptos are not as easy as mobile payment, which can be done instantly, right? From a hardware perspective, right, then you cannot do everything on smartphone as easily as you deal with a car hailing app like Uber on a smartphone, right? So, but that's sort of the direction. So I think that down the road, the ecosystem players like Ethereum will be the dominant player, right? Because I think eventually, if you want to scale into billions, you need to build up an ecosystem.
I agree with your point. So we'll see. I don't know whether it's going to be Ethereum or another blockchain, but I do agree that the community.
Yeah, could it be others too? I'm sorry. Yeah, yes. Yeah, it could be others, right?
Yeah, because right now we see, for example, one of the biggest partnerships right now was done by Polygon, right? Polygon partnered with Starbucks. Polygon's partnered with Twitter, Instagram. So those are
and for gaming.
Yes, for gaming. A lot of gaming projects are using them, so that's also an option. I'm not saying that we don't know where they're going to be in 3 to 5 years, but I'm saying there's many other very specific blockchains that solve this particular issue that you're addressing. What's other point? What's more?
But let me add on to what you just said, Constantin. Because you just touched on a really good point. the Polygon example, right? The Polygon had a tremendous run last 12 months or maybe 18 months, right? Because of the gaming token development,
Yes.
right? So they come up as more or less kind of the leading gaming related protocol, right? It provides more gaming friendly or NFT friendly features, right, for gaming developers, etc. So when you think along that line, right, there could be some new protocol to come in the future. Probably would have more root in content creation side than a root in blockchain crypto side, right? So it's very likely, we see a protocol that will come up that has the DNA of content creation instead of starting everything from a crypto perspective, right? And that kind of protocol actually may become super powerful, going forward. When people try to create contents and add crypto into it, right? That's very different from crypto players, try to play cryptos by adding some contents.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think we still don't know who's going to be the winner, but definitely the experiments that are showing us that there is an appetite for those technologies, and like people are not they're not afraid to experiment, right? And yeah, the winner might take it all, or at least like a big chunk of the market, right? And like we're still building the infrastructure. It's still not ready. Now, I want to ask you also, so you obviously have several hats. So for one of them is you're a professor, another you're an educator, like you're an author, you're writing a book to help people to get educated on the topic, but you're also an investor. So if you were to wear your investment hat, like, right, and you would be given right now a pitch deck of a metaverse, right? So what are the three main key points that you would want to see in this pitch deck?
That's very much like a business secret discussion. Yeah, but
we're here to reveal as much as you can.
Yes. No, I love the question because it's evolving. The answer to that question keeps evolving, but some are constant. So first we think about this space in that two directions, right? One, metaverse technologies relating to AR, VR, XR. And interactive entertainment, and for that one, we focus on the infrastructure play, on the like in my VC fund, right? We focus on the infrastructure play, whether it's about 3D video processing software, right, or get into, let's say, gaming infrastructure, like big data analytics, into gaming, stuff like that, right? Essentially, we're talking about infrastructural tools. So, for example, recently we got involved in a three-dimensional video company, volumetric video company. It's not about 3D contents production, but it's about 3D contents compact and distribute, right? As I mentioned earlier, right? The AR, VR, XR environment requires a lot of data processing. So anything that can improve the data management, data processing, data distribution, right? These will be fundamentally important infrastructure, just like the PDF technology, right? In the Web2 environment, or email encryption, right? It's almost like we need a new set of new technologies for the 3D interactive in the internet. That's one part, right? And the other part is Web2, Web3 crypto, and this part is evolving. This part is really evolving, right? Up until let's call it 6 months or 12 months ago, right? There was a lot of enthusiasm in that space, and there are lots of new ideas coming up, lots of new variety of tokens, right? Including NFT itself. NFT had its breakout year last year, right? So last year, a lot of the focus would be on the new variety, on the variety of new tokens, right? Whether it's gaming tokens, whether it's NFT, when it's a new form of DeFi, right? The main thing is, right, we see a explosion of new offerings, a lot of things, a lot of promising new token varieties, right? So you can imagine last year a lot of capital attention were in that kind of direction, but this year things are getting a bit different, right? Because you have the Celsius bankruptcy, which dragged CDPQ, Canadian Pension, into it. And then recently, Temasek, Sequoia Capital, Ontario Teachers Pension, a lot of blue chip investors all got burned on the FTX bankruptcy, right? So this year, so after all these, the interest into direct crypto exposure becomes much more, maybe quite cautious, right? So people become a lot more cautious on direct crypto exposure. Instead, people go back to the technology side to say maybe we should continue to focus on the blockchain technology side, the crypto payment technology side, or these software infrastructure of the Web3. So I think the beauty of the Web3 is it's evolving so quickly. So you keep having new themes to come. At this moment, I see investors put a pause on Web3 crypto and put more focus on Web3 payment technology and industry application technologies.
Interesting. So any red flags that founders should avoid, like thinking about there are hundreds of metaverses that are being right now released, if not thousands, obviously all of them have unique nature. Some of them already have users, some of them have like famous artists on board or big brands who are building on top of their metaverse, right? So what do you believe is kind of the winning strategy, right, in this particular case? Or do you believe they all will coexist together and it'll be a multiverse where they're going to somehow exchange assets between each other?
No, I think essentially we're back to the basics. And essentially we're going back to the traditional playbook of VC, right? So if it's a technology, then you ask, can we scale this? What will be the potential users for this, right? And hopefully, you can answer the question: can this be integrated into some business sectors, right? So earlier I mentioned about Unity. Unity is a very interesting example, right? It started as a gaming engine, but now its technology is being used in other business sectors like construction, healthcare, education, etc. Right? And this is a way to gain large user base, for a new product. And for today, if it's technology offering from Web3, we should ask similar questions. It's good to have a vision, but you have to come down to the question: who will be the user, and how likely can we scale it, right, to a meaningful number of users, and most importantly, a meaningful income, a meaningful revenue income, right? And another aspect is if it's related to contents, right, then you have to ask, what's the intellectual property and what kind of rights do I have, right? Like if you think about the NFTs, sometimes it's very hard to understand and define or even understand what the right the NFT holder has, right? Once I was in Paris and someone asked me, about the NFT, the rights of certain NFT, right? I said, hey, it's hard for me to describe it, but if you tell me you have a NFT of Mona Lisa, an NFT of Mona Lisa, I'm pretty sure you have no claim on the Mona Lisa painting because it is still in the house of Louvre, right? So if it's relating to contents, right, then you have to really get into the details of the intellectual property and the actual rights that you have.
And how would you prove it, even if you have? For example, if you even conducted an exclusive contract with Louvre, and you have the IP, right? Now,
correct.
Still, how do you transfer them? Who attests this? Who is the body that will provide a standard that would actually provide, the attestation that, this is verified. This is actually, the people who are claiming that they have intellectual property rights for this particular painting are saying the truth, right? Because there's so many in the modern world where, GPT-3 and our basic AI is becoming smarter, 10,000 times smarter than we are in many ways. And the deepfakes can do a lot of things right now. You can also see that the creative scammers evolve and they actually create very, very interesting social proofs combined with forged documents, and there are a lot of open questions here. But again, this is probably a conversation for a separate podcast, right?
Exactly.
I mean, briefly, if I may ask you, so you mentioned something interesting, which I want to briefly ask you, because people who are listening, I mean, especially founders, I think it's valuable for them. You mentioned two aspects. One is sizable amount of users, right? And sizable amount of revenue. So can you explain a little bit more? What does it mean? How many users do you believe in Metaverse should have? And what are the sizable revenues according to you?
Yeah, I give you a quick example because it's a recent transaction that we worked on, a 3D volumetric video, right? When we look at the TikTok, we know there's huge demand of video contents, right? But we do not see too many 3D video contents yet because it takes a lot of efforts to produce them, and it's very hard to transmit them. Right, for average user, you probably need, you need to go to a studio, right? Hundreds of cameras and even professionals to manage it, so such that you can come up with a professional quality 3D video. But even with that, the file is so big, it's so hard for you to transmit, right? So in order to make it as popular as the TikTok two-dimensional video, right? You need a data compression technology, right? So we worked. So we invested in this startup company which tries to make 3D content management as easy as today. A regular person deals with a PDF file, right? Turning a Word file into a PDF file, compress it, make it easy to transmit, security, blah blah blah, right? So these kind of enabling technologies, kind of fundamental tools, right, to us would be very scalable going forward. So that could be a very interesting example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but earlier you just touched on something very interesting about due diligence. So as we come to the end of this virtual interview, right? I find it's funny to say, in terms of due diligence, maybe it's time to go to the offline. Is the time, during the pandemic, especially relating to digital. Kind of digital original startups, right? Then you say, hey, we are pure digital company, right? It's like a Coinbase IPO prospectus with SEC. It did not even have a central office address, stuff like that, right? So during the pandemic, it was popular to say, oh, this is Web3 organic. Everything's virtual, everything digital. So we do everything due diligence online, right? Maybe that's not enough, right? Definitely after FTX, probably you need to talk to more people. Probably you should have visited their office, and maybe hopefully if they have a booking, let's check their auditing books. So
actually
maybe
they did.
Yeah.
Actually they
Yes.
did, if you remember. And the irony is this, that they've been audited and they
Yes.
tricked the auditor. So not even that. That's the craziest part. Now, even that will not help anymore, right? Because you can hide some balance sheets, play. If you're wise scammer, like, fraudster, you can find the ways and loopholes. Like, I looked at their balance sheets, like, it's like 7 or 8% of their assets were indicated as stocks of Robinhood. I mean, and you don't have to be a very smart mathematician, like, to understand that something is wrong here, right? And then some of that was like collateralized tokens, which were illiquid. I mean, but you see, one of the top, I don't want to do bad advertising, but like one of the top auditing firms actually vouch for them, right? So, and it happened it happened with, by the way, in a lot of Web2 companies as well. Like, if we took look at the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and then many other firms that provided like AAA ratings for certain securities or synthetic assets, I mean, yeah, sometimes they did a bad job. So we're living in an era where no longer the trust and the verification, it's no longer something that we can rely on, unfortunately. The standards are completely, somehow smushed. They're disconnected with the reality. And
that's right.
It is sad, but I think that's another point that I think what we're trying to build here is new standards for the open metaverse, for the world that will exist in a more democratic and decentralized fashion, which is by itself is a very, very complex issue, beyond the security, beyond the fact that the gameplay should be great. It's just, how do you make sure that the governance is correct? How do you make sure that people have equal rights to vote, but at the same time it's not manipulated, right? How do you make sure that people will be compensated fairly, but at the same time the economy would be profitable, would make sense? All those issues are incredibly complex issues, right? So, I mean, I'm sure that you have probably material for 3 more books.
And they're coming.
Yeah, so people stay tuned. There will be continuation of of books, but again, meanwhile, we'll definitely share in the description the links to your books. I mean, you can find them on Amazon. I'm sure, maybe we didn't do the giveaway, but if you're gonna maybe if you're gonna ask a good question,
next time
Winston maybe will provide you a free copy with his signature. I don't know, we didn't discuss it, but maybe.
You speak like a lawyer.
Yes. So I try to be very careful not to push any buttons. Look, as much as I enjoy talking about those issues, I want to ask you a personal question, which I typically don't notify my guests about those questions, but I think it's the most important question, right? And the question is the following. So, as a talented person as you are, and you did a lot of in your life, what is the purpose for you? What is the meaning of life to you?
Wow, that's really big. I was a young global leader at Davos, right? I was nominated before age 40, and then after 5 years, I graduated from the YGO thing. And at that time, as a Davos person or young global leader, that kind of thing, right? You keep talking about social impact, and I have many fellows in that YGO group for NGO startup founders, right? And at that time, probably I was still less mature, and I still had less understanding of the social impact. But these days, right, especially after the pandemic, I do see the meaning of life in social impact. the world is getting more and more complicated, and you could even say more and more chaotic. So it requires thought leadership, to come up with a new framework, new ways of thinking, but even more importantly, to work on transactions, deals that can have real direct impact, on the economy, on the society. So I really, focus on the digital economy because this is the most important transforming force, right, for the world economy as well as the society right now. So I focus on that because I think whatever work in that space, there will be lasting impact on the society.
And that's great, social impact, and I'm sure you support many charities, right? I'm for sure. I read in your book that some of the proceeds go to charity, if I'm not mistaken, correct? And basically, that's one of the also important things, like beyond what we do, beyond what we try to educate people, like we have to give more. We have to try to share not only the knowledge, but something that we have with the people who might not be so fortunate to have, good education opportunities. Or
and it's more than charity, Constantin, right? Just like you and me are working at the frontier of the digital economy. And if we can help setting the right standards and the right direction of that digital transformation, right? That's long-lasting impact.
100%. Winston, really pleasure. Thank you so much for your knowledge. Thank you for sharing those gems. And again, I'm sure it's just a teaser. So for people who want to learn more, whether they're now watching it on YouTube or any of the respective podcast platforms, please, we'll share in the description and the body of the description. Yes, the blockchain and Web3 book. Like there's several other books that Winston either wrote or co-authored, and you can approach Winston in different social media. Which one is your favorite? LinkedIn?
Yeah, probably LinkedIn. Yes.
Okay. So LinkedIn will be the favorite, and then I'm sure he's going to answer some of your personal questions, and you're going to learn a lot just from reading the book. Thank you so much again, and I hope to do it again.
Thank you, Constantin.